Resorting to Extra Aces. Written by Gail Hulnick. Copyright 2021. The checkerboard floor in the resort lobby gleamed as it always did early in the morning after its nighttime dusting, swabbing, and polishing. Everywhere Camille looked, she noticed touches of care and attention. The antique furniture, the brass fittings on the windows, the French doors, the Italian marble. Much as she tried to be sophisticated, cynical, and worldly, she couldn't help herself. She felt proud to be part of it all. This hotel was the pride of Monaco. They might not be as well known as a New York 5 étoiles, but they had the beauty, the high style, and the customer service that had put them on the radar of the wealthy and the discerning. The man and woman approaching the registration desk definitely appeared to fit in. He was tall, young, and well-built. She was tall, older, and well-groomed. Perhaps son and mother? "Jennifer Gilbert and Matthew Gilbert checking in," the woman announced, pulling her top-name wallet from a matching bag. The man glanced briefly at Camille, waiting behind the reception desk, his face and eyes lighting up in a smile as bright as noon hour in Marbella. It lasted just 5 seconds, just a courtesy, and his attention was back on the woman at his side right away. Camille did the drill, as automatic as brushing her teeth, but she worked hard to keep it from sounding mechanical. She described the amenities of the resort: 4 swimming pools, 3 restaurants, spa, fitness gym, and rooftop bar, hourly shuttle to the casino, and tours to the Grand Prix course if they were interested in gambling or racing. "2 keys?" she asked. The man and woman exchanged a look. "One will be fine," she said. "Aha." The couple walked off toward the elevators after arranging for their luggage to be brought up by the bell captain. Henri almost never escorted guests upstairs himself, just supervised the others who actually did the work. These must be very important guests. When they came downstairs a few hours later, they were dressed to go out on the town. He looked gorgeous, and she definitely was holding up well, for her age. Camille took her usual moment or two for envy and self-pity. "Where do I find a man like that?" Then she got on with her job. "Anything I can help you with?" she asked as they paused near the door. Jennifer Gilbert smiled in a friendly but distant way. "A taxi?" Gaston, the head doorman, had just come in from the driveway out front. "I will assist you, madame," he said. Camille noticed that the young man tried to step forward with some assurance, but his what? Date? Friend? Lover? Seemed to be accustomed to taking charge. "Thank you," she said. "Let's go, darling," she tossed over her shoulder, not even looking to see if her companion was following. "Could you arrange for a taxi to pick up Mrs. Gilbert and myself at the casino at 11 o'clock? He asked Camille. "So, wife? Or maybe she was someone else's wife and he got a kick out of calling her Mrs." Later that evening, when Camille was describing them to Nadine, who was coming on for the night shift, she realized that she perhaps had a little more curiosity about these two than she usually had for the resort guests. Most of them were cranky Parisians on a brief getaway, or lofty Americans come to see the legendary city from their spy movies, the historic palace of their movie star princess, or the famous racetrack of their driver heroes. "Enough gossiping, ladies." The night manager stopped them mid-conversation. Nadine watched him turn his back, then had to ask one more question, in a hissing whisper. "What's your bet, Camille? Is he her husband or her toy?" Camille considered. They had been very affectionate. Maybe both. When she saw them the next morning, she made a point of asking about their evening. "Did you enjoy the casino?" "Very much," the man answered. "The symmetry of the building and the statues outside. The interior is spectacular, all that gold and marble, the frescoes, the sculpture, and the ceilings. I always like to look at ceilings in these historic buildings. It's like a palace, like everything I've ever seen in the movies. Really, a highlight." Monsieur had a lot to say, and he wasn't finished. "Today we also got out to see the circuit." "Ah, Monsieur is a racing fan? Formula 1. "Sunrise to sunset," Mrs. Gilbert put in. It is the reason we are here in Monaco. The casino, the history, the Mediterranean, they are all secondary." "What we'd really like to do is see the Grand Prix," the man added. "But since this is March, and it is 2 months away, a walk around the track will have to be enough." "But next year we will be back, Matthew," she said with what Camille felt as a rather condescending tone. "Maybe next time you will be here at the right time for the race," Camille suggested. The man shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not." "We will be back next year for the race, darling. I promise." The woman squeezed his hand and smiled. As they walked away, Camille heard him say, "It was sweet of you to promise, Jennifer, but we'll just see what happens." Just like a man, Camille thought. Beware those long-term commitments. When Nadine handed off to Camille the next morning, she said they were very glum when they rolled in at 3 a.m. As they passed the desk, she'd asked, "A good night?" And Mrs. Gilbert snapped, "No, thank you very much." Later that morning, Matthew stopped by to talk to Camille. "I am off on my own for a while, Camille," he said. "Jennifer wants a nap and a bubble bath. I'm looking for a shop that sells playing cards. Where would I find that?" Camille stared out at the sunlight blaring across the sidewalk in front of the hotel while she concentrated. "I'm not sure, monsieur. The shopping district is to the left, as you leave the hotel. May I show you?" she said, pulling over one of the paper tourist maps and a pen. She drew an X. "We are here. This way is the casino. Here is the track. This is Gucci. Here is Chanel. Versace." "No thanks, I don't want that," Matthew said, with his bright smile taking the edge off the rejection. And at least he said, "Thanks." A lot of them didn't. "I'd rather follow my nose and just fumble around a bit, maybe one of the gift shops or souvenir stores." Camille had to think about it for a moment. She didn't think she'd ever seen any playing cards in any of those shops. "Maybe. I'll ask around for you, monsieur, in case you come back disappointed." He smiled again. "Please call me Matthew, s'il vous plaît?" "D'accord," she said, smiling back. As he slipped away from the desk, he pulled his phone from his pocket to send a text. When he looked up to see her watching him, he smiled again. "Just letting my wife know where I'm going, and sending her one of these funny emojis." Ah, not just a couple, but a happy couple. Camille didn't have a free moment in the next hour, and she was surprised to see him walk back in so soon. "Oh, monsieur is back already? Did you find the cards?" "I did not," he said, "but I had a good time seeing the sights. Those yachts in the harbor are sensational." Camille nodded, then considered whether the next question would or would not be welcome. "Is it that monsieur and madame wish to play cards in their room? Not what she would do on a vacation, even with a husband, but Americans." Matthew laughed. "No, Camille, they're just for me. And they're a secret, by the way. I want to practice so that I don't look like a loser at the baccarat table. Literally," he added. He glanced over his shoulder, then showed her a bag. "I bought a book," he said, pulling out a paperback copy of Baccarat, Beginner to Master. She shook her head. "Monsieur, you need a teacher, not a book." "Where would I find one? Do you know of any?" "My brother's," she said. "I will set it up. Just let me know the next time Madame is occupied." The next morning, Camille's work phone buzzed with a text from Matthew. "Today at 2. Her reply was instant. "Yes, meet in the lobby." 3 hours later, he sat on one of the white and gilt chairs near the revolving door, having just walked Jennifer over to the spa and seen her disappear behind the stylized waterfall that separated the reception area from the luxurious treatment rooms beyond. Camille had seen the rooms only once when she'd been given her walk-through orientation her first day on this job. No discounts or gift facials for the staff. She had to come up with the 400 euros just like anyone else. Ah, well, perhaps at Christmas? Camille saw her older brothers, Auguste and Bernard, arriving through the sliding glass doors. She had sometimes wondered whether her mother had named them in expectation of 26 children. but she had never had the nerve to ask her. The two men had been dressing as twins for decades, even though there were officially 14 months between them. Maybe it was for the attention, or maybe they just had tastes that were that similar. Camille suspected the first reason. They were both round in the bottom, like bowling pins. On the top, their bald heads added to the impression. They were dandies when it came to clothes. No ordinary jeans and t-shirts, or pants with polo shirts for them. Today they were in matching three-piece blue pinstripe suits, complete with pocket watches and ruffled white shirts. Each carried a briefcase, too. Apparently this was serious business. They had gambled in casinos all over the world, Las Vegas, Macau, even on a cruising ship once, almost everywhere but in Monaco, where only foreign nationals showing their passports at the door were allowed in. She introduced her brothers to Matthew and showed them to one of the meeting rooms down the hall from the grand ballroom. When the three of them emerged an hour later, Matthew hurrying over to the spa entrance, the two brothers looked annoyed. Camille was in the midst of updating the list of room preferences for the man in 604. It was strange. Who wanted a birdcage and 6 leather bookmarks in his room on check-in? She barely looked up from her computer. August sneered. He was in a rush, checking his watch every 10 minutes. Americans. Bernard leaned on the chrome and glass reservation desk and drummed his fingers. He let us switch him from baccarat to blackjack, but he wouldn't go for the suggestion that he stick to the slot machines. At least he won't lose his money quite so quickly, Camille commented. Ah, that is part of the story, Auguste said. It isn't even his money. It is her money. Isn't it theirs if they are married? Camille asked, keeping her eyes focused on the spa now. It really wouldn't do to have the Gilberts appear and show up at the desk without her noticing, and then hear the three of them gossiping about the personal lives of the guests. That is what many Americans say, but in the end everyone always knows, Auguste said. He is not just learning cards. He thinks he is buying independence. He wants to go to the casino and win a fortune, Camille asked. He wants to go to the casino and have her watch him excel at the tables. He wants to impress her, to dazzle her. But also to win a fortune, Bernard added. At minimum, a small one. But first to have her watch him, Auguste repeated, because he loves her. Apparently so, Camille agreed. The couple certainly seemed en amour when they came walking through the lobby 5 minutes later. Matthew nodded at Camille and his blackjack teachers as they went by, his eyes twinkling. But perhaps she just imagined that. On her way home after work, Camille couldn't resist stopping by at a restaurant near the casino. She'd seen them leaving, Jennifer in a designer dress, cape, and shoes with red soles. Matthew seemed distant, and this time Jennifer was the one who stopped to chat and give Camille a smile. To say that Camille was surprised was to understate things. Her curiosity had her as revved up as a Formula One car on the starting grid. She had asked her brothers if they thought he could win. Bernard shrugged. Blackjack is a game of luck, and he seems to be a man who believes he is lucky. Will he cheat if he needs to? Camille wondered. It would be a bad idea at Monte Carlo, but he did ask us how to go about getting extra aces into the deck. Auguste examined his cufflinks and checked his watch. It was a joke, Auguste. Bernard always thought he was ahead of his brother in understanding people, and the whole world. A joke, and if not, a misunderstanding. Extra aces never help you win. The idea of walking into her small apartment in Nice, flipping on the lights and eating one more meal alone at her small table while she read Paris Match, left Camille feeling bleak. She called Nadine, whose night off it was, and got her agreement to meet at the casino door. They were the same size, so she also got her to bring an extra outfit. Camille didn't want to be hanging out dressed in jeans and last year's chemise like a tourist. She wanted to look like someone who could be going across the street to play, even though she had never taken her brothers up on their many offers to teach her. So when Nadine showed up, she brought company and clothes. What more could Camille ask? This night was already a pair of aces. They met at Bistro Gaga and caught up on each other's news over a glass of fine Bordeaux, sitting outdoors at a café with a view of the casino front entrance and parking lot. When she spotted Auguste and Bernard getting out of Auguste's tiny sports car and crossing the parking lot, she was surprised. They couldn't go in. Why were they here? She rushed Nadine into finishing her glass of wine, then dropped her credit card on the bill. "Hurry, hurry!" she silently coached the server, and when they were all settled up, she practically ran from the bistro. "What's going on?" she asked her brothers when she caught up. "We're going to try to just slip ourselves in," Auguste said. Camille and Nadine watched them try to slide. Much discussion with the doormen, but after 5 minutes the brothers were back on the sidewalk. Nadine suggested next that they try to flirt their way in. Camille didn't have the nerve, but Nadine thought it was worth a try. "Watch and learn," she advised, then headed toward the door. 2 minutes later she was back, shaking her head. Bernard had become increasingly exasperated. He pulled out his phone, then sent a text. "Bon," he said, reading the reply. "Come on." Camille, Auguste, and Nadine followed as he led them to the side of the massive building, down a short laneway, and up to a door so inconspicuous that it almost disappeared into the wall. Bernard knocked 3 times. The door opened, and they entered a hallway in almost complete darkness. Camille could see what appeared to be some kind of uniformed back in front of them, although she couldn't be sure. Suddenly the dark hallway ended at another door. On the other side was the vast, luxurious entrance to a glamorous casino. A couple swept past them, the woman in a very stylish white miniskirt, fishnet stockings, gloves reaching above her elbows, strings of diamonds on a necklace reaching to her collarbone, and deep cleavage below. Her skin was tanned a shade of cinnamon, and her silver hair was cut very short. The man was in a tuxedo, but with a black shirt and white tie. He was just as tanned as she, and stood about a foot taller. They were both 80 years old, easily, maybe older. They were moving at the speed of a race car, heading for the tables. "Come on," Bernard said. They tucked into the draft of the glamorous couple and sped into the main room. The blackjack tables were on the other side. As Camille followed her brothers, she thought she spotted a fashion designer, an American reality TV star, 2 Formula One drivers, and a rapper. Eye candy everywhere. A server passed by with a tray of drinks, followed by another with canapes. Excellent. She was still hungry. She grabbed a napkin and 2 shrimp rolls. Camille spotted Jennifer and Matthew Gilbert over by the poker tables, watching. She saw them glance up and see her, with Auguste, Bernard, and Nadine. Good. She had a cover story if these hotel guests questioned what she was doing at the casino, sampling food for comparison to what they offered at the resort. Full house. "Are they going to play poker?" Nadine whispered into her ear, which was adorned with a beautiful silver earring. The darling had even brought night-out jewelry to go with the outfit. Bernard groaned. "Lord, I hope not." The couple walked away from the high-stakes poker game they'd been watching, but they didn't head toward the blackjack area. They were on their way to the baccarat tables. Auguste stopped another passing server and captured a glass of champagne. Camille saw Matthew glance toward his gambling teachers as he passed by. He spoke briefly to Jennifer, then they sat down at a table. He looked directly at Bernard, Auguste, Nadine, and Camille, and beamed. 4 of a kind. It was easy to follow the action. Matthew ordered chips, set himself up, and started to play like a man who'd been doing so since he was 21. Camille thought she saw a surprised smile coming from Jennifer. In fact, she was sure of it. After that first moment, Matthew didn't look in their direction again. Definitely no eye contact. If the teachers had any idea of giving the students some in-the-moment coaching, Matthew didn't buy in. Matthew won the first hand. As the dealing went on, Jennifer's surprise spread out to be shared by the other 4. He won, again and again. The small pile of chips at his elbow grew as the hours went on. The dealer was changed several times, the pit boss made a visit, and still Matthew's streak went on. "An experienced player might tell you it is skill," Bernard whispered into Camille's ear, "but in his case it is probably luck." "Or maybe because he wants it so much," Auguste contributed. And he wants it for love, not money, Camille thought. After 3 hours he was still playing. Camille was longing for her tiny apartment and her bed. She still had a 15-mile drive home, but she didn't want to leave until she knew the end of the story. Who hadn't read a novel or seen a movie where the luck turns bad and the happy ending goes bust? Another quarter hour, and they were ready to cash in at last. Matthew flipped a chip tip to the dealer, then he and Jennifer stood up. Matthew looked as happy as a man could as he scooped up the huge pile of 1,000 euro chips. An employee appeared to help him get them to the cashier's window, and they walked off at a crisp pace. As they passed the audience quartet, Jennifer slowed down, very briefly. Then, looking toward their group, she winked. At whom? And meaning what? Despite Camille's best efforts at grilling her brothers, they professed to be as ignorant as she. The Gilberts checked out the next morning.